up? It's your host, Torry, and who is ready to be petty? Welcome back to another episode of RTBP. I'm so glad you're here. And it's round 2. I've recorded this episode before, but I just didn't like the way I sounded. I sounded kind of like a whiny bitch. So I'm back to do it all again. Today we're going to talk about the Grammys, because that happened. Other Taylor Swift news, the Super Bowl with some Taylor Swift news, some celeb relationship updates, and then I'm going to nominate a Pettyweight Champion of the Week. No, this week in Petty this week. You know, when you're just so down bad, depressed, not down bad, horny, or anything like that. No, when I say down bad, it's always going to be the depressed one. But it's like when things like aren't funny to bitch about, like that are happening, or just like you just feel like you can't bitch about like getting a parking ticket or whatever because everything else is like crap. That's how I feel. So we're going to skip this week in Petty this week, but I'm sure we will have many more moments that we can enjoy together in the future. So let's get into it. The Grammys happened. I didn't watch, but I watched clips online. Obvi Kit Kat Bar. I don't have like cable TV, and I would rather die than okay, I really gotta stop than watch a 3.5 hour TV event. That sounds absolutely like my worst nightmare. But there was some really fun notable moments. First, Tracy Chapman and Luke Combs performing Fast Car. Yes, I cried. Yes, it was beautiful. Yes, I've listened to that song every day since. It was so amazing to see Tracy Chapman in, I think, a custom Prada outfit, and just like Luke Combs being so obsessed with her. And then Miley Cyrus winning not 1 but 2 Grammys. So exciting, because it's just so shocking that she hasn't won a Grammy yet, because she has such great music. Like Party in the USA, Bop, The Climb, Bop. Like, how did those not even get nominated? And then she was a little bit of a PCW when she was like, I don't think I forgot anyone in her speech. She said, I don't think I forgot anyone, but I definitely forgot my underwear, or something like that. But we know the context as Petty Betty's, and it's because she is in a feud with Billy Ray Cyrus. She had a falling out with him, maybe because of his new wife. And she didn't mention Billy or Noah. And I think there's one other sib that she doesn't talk to in her speech. And then saying she didn't forget anyone was a, Pettyweight champ moment for Miley. I also really appreciated Jay-Z speaking about Beyonce and how she is the most decorated Grammy winner of all time with I think 32 or 34 Grammys, but has never won Album of the Year. That doesn't make sense. And I'm sure there were plenty of other moments, but we got to talk about Taylor. It was a big night for her. So let's start off with her outfit. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I thought her hair was absolutely atrocious. Bangs weren't banging. Braid wasn't braiding. It wasn't good. It looked really like a rat sense. Like, I was like, that is kind of like what my hair looks like after I go out and then wake up the next day and it's in like a half bun, like around my neck, but like half ponytail. It would have looked so much better if her hair was up. I think a lot of celebs are like weirdly scared to wear their hair up or just opt for their hair down long. And when you have a lot going around the neck area, like a dress that has like a high neck, a collar, lots of necklaces, big earrings, like anything like that, you should wear your hair up so your eye is drawn to your neck or your décolletage in this case, because she was wearing a watch necklace that was set to midnight. She made sure on the red carpet that it was set to midnights with tree paint, which was like definitely staged. That was like, I feel like the big statement piece. So you want, your eyes to be drawn to that area. And I think celebs, because I guess it's because of like the beauty standards and like stuff like that. Like I talked about this on my Patreon with Jenna from Date Card about having short hair and like men considering you ugly But like when you wear like a backless dress or again, something showy on the front, like I think you should wear your hair up. And I think Olivia Rodrigo, funny enough, is a perfect example of this. She's been wearing a lot of like spaghetti strap, sleek dresses. And I'm like, and like long hair. And I'm just like, this would look so much chicer if she had like a kind of like messy bun or like kind of Bridget Bardot kind of look or something like that. But anyways, I digress. She was wearing Schiaparelli. We've seen Schiaparelli on a lot of the Kardashian girlies. It was a white dress with the lace up in the back, which I thought was very beautiful, very high fashion, very structured, which isn't usually the look that Taylor goes for. So I really appreciated that. And then it was paired with black gloves. I don't think I like the black gloves. I do think that if you are wearing gloves, which I love an over the elbow glove moment, it's so beautiful. But I really appreciate when it's like either lace or a monochrome look. So it's like if you were wearing a white dress, white gloves, but then that would look too wedding, too bridal. So I totally understand why they would choose a different color, but it just, I don't know, just didn't make sense to me. It reminded me of the Kate Middleton outfit she also wore to, I think it was the BAFTAs, where she was in a white dress with black gloves. And I'm like, if the dress was black, this would have been 10 out of 10. And unfortunately, it's just like a 7 out of 10 because of the white and black. But we all know now that maybe it was an intentional white and black thing because of her new album coming out, which we'll talk about in a second. So basically, leading up to the Grammys, we were like, okay, she's going to be announcing Rep TV. There has been so many clues leading up to this album. Like she like started wearing green at every fucking event, which is like kind of like a weird color, like especially like lime greens. And she was wearing those brown boots with the snakes on them, and I was like, those are so fugly that there's no way you aren't wearing them as an Easter egg. Like it's just, there's no way. But like that's just not what happened, which I'm really surprised. I also think just like money-wise, time-wise, creativity-wise, and I know I've said this before, but I'll say it a million more times until the re-recordings are done. While I do think she likes the empowerment of reclaiming her old music and revisiting projects and doing them her way, including songs, you know, that got scrapped the first time around, I really do believe she really appreciates this process. But there's a part of me, and I think she said this in one of her interviews, like it is like redoing your homework after you've already turned it in, but it got lost or whatever. And it's like, I can't help but think she would want to produce new music in the meantime, which she's clearly doing, but make that have some like hype around it. And it just, for me, doesn't make sense for her to release new music now while the Eras Tour is going on, but we've seen it in Tokyo and she hasn't added anything. So I'm like, why wouldn't you just whip off Rep TV and debut, and then during the Eras Tour, and then when the Eras Tour is over, release your new album? And then I doubt she'll do a full tour with this new album, but she could have done kind of like Loverfest, where she does, you know, 4 nights, 2 locations, one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast of the US, something like that. But nonetheless, she has this album that allegedly she's been working on for 2 years. So the other little bit of lead up before this announcement was looking at the Easter egg. So of course we're looking at all of the Easter eggs being like reps next, like a million Easter eggs. Like just Google Reputation Taylor's version Easter egg on TikTok and you will get a billion kajillion videos on everybody breaking it down. You don't need me to break it down for you. But there are some ones that I wanted to talk about because they really stick out in my mind. First is the Jack and Taylor Instagram post where they're holding up 11 fingers. So this was for Cruel Summer reaching number 1 on the Hot 100 this fall. And there's a picture of Jack holding up 10 fingers and Taylor holding up 1. And the 10 fingers are a little bit like innocuous. He's like hiding his face. And I think we are to believe that they are just some goofy pictures. She's holding up the 1 and he's holding up the 10. to make 11. But I think that they were recording I was going to say the Dead Poets Society, Jesus Christ, the Tortured Poets Department during this time. And I think that that was an Easter egg. The other thing is the Karma Latte, which I've referenced a million times. This is the shot in the Karma music video where she has a blue fingernail on 8, which is when she announced 1989, and then a black finger on February. So people are saying, okay, well, the black fingernail equals rep TV. But now people are saying that the hands were on the 11 possibly. So people were saying that maybe it was 1989, 11, and then rep. But then what would the 2 stand for? Because I doubt it will be February 2025. Or maybe it is. Who knows? And then the last Easter egg that I want to talk about is in the I Bet You Think About Me music video when she's standing next to that red velvet wedding cake, which I could totally go for a slice of right now. She drags her 2 fingers across the cake and it looks like an equal sign. So people were like, oh my God, what does this mean? People were like, is this a double album? Is it a 2? Is it an equal sign? What is it? I think we didn't think that it's probably an 11. But I'm like, maybe that's too deep of a cut. I don't know. I can clown with the best of them. But we just, we were duped once again. It's actually so embarrassing as a collective. But there was another really weird thing, which was on all these Easter egg videos, everyone was like, yeah, Rep TV, or like double albums coming, or like whatever. But this username @crazyfemale, KRAYZIE female, posted on some rando's TikTok and was like, hey, by the way, it's not going to be Rep TV. It's actually a new album. It's called The Tortured Poets Department. And this is the track list. Dropped the track list. Dropped the 2 collabs with Florence and the Machine and Post Malone, and then deleted their account. So I'm like, this is so crazy. Like, it obviously must have been either someone from Taylor's camp trolling us or someone from Taylor's camp who leaked this. But I'm curious to see what you think about this. Like, do you think it was someone from Taylor's camp? Or do you think that she has a rat amongst her people? She needs to do what the Kardashians do, where they will give a small nugget of incorrect information to one person. And then if the story comes out, but there's one detail that's wrong, they can track who the person is. Like, so smart. She needs to do that ASAP. Okay, let's talk about the actual album announcement. So she was winning Best Pop Record of the Year, and Celine Dion was giving her the award. She announced it. She basically ignored Celine, and she immediately announced the album. This was her first win of the night. She said that she has been holding the secret in for 2 years, which we kind of got a little bit of information about that when Jack released You're Losing Me and said that it was written in December 2021. Not that You're Losing Me was supposed to be on the Tortured Poets Department, but that they were working on new music other than the re-records, and that maybe there was problems with Joe way earlier in the relationship or in the timeline than we ever realized. And the reaction publicly, like, shocked and stoked from everybody, for sure. I know there's a small percentage of haters that are like, I'm over Taylor Swift and her, like, dominating the charts, but, like, the general public reaction was, like, fucking, like, excited. But the looks of her peers, like, the camera quickly flashed over to Olivia Rodrigo and Ed Sheeran and Casey Musgraves and stuff like that. And it was, like, stilted and, like, it was awkward, to say the least. Like, I can't even describe. It must have been so uncomfortable to have a reaction that you just, like, want to emote on your face, but then, like, a camera is shoved on it and you just have to, like, plaster on a fake smile. Kind of honestly reminds me, now that I'm thinking about it, of a work Zoom call. And you want to react, but there's a camera stuck in your face. Anyways, I thought this was like not the best move. I was very lukewarm about this. Am I dying to hear new Taylor music? Always. She's basically the only artist I listen to at this point. And so to add more songs to the, the database, I'm fucking stoked. But I thought it would have been way more fun if she announced it at the Tokyo show. Because she says that she does everything for the fans. And she kind of quickly pivoted and talked about how the album and the music and stuff is for the fans. And she does what she does for the fans and stuff like that. But it didn't make sense in the way that she announced Midnights when it was a bunch of fans to when it was a bunch of other performers and production folks in the room. She actually mentioned at her first Tokyo show, she was at the Evermore piano and she does like a little bit of ad-libbing and a little bit of like tea spilling at this point in the tour. You would know if you saw the Eras Tour movie. She says, I thought I wasn't going to win anything, but she said in her head, if she won something, she was just going to do it. And then she said, if I didn't win anything, I was just going to do it tonight at the Tokyo show. And I just think that would have gone off so much better. A lot of people are speculating that she didn't do this because the time change. It's like 4 a.m. when she gets to, these sets in the States. And people were just saying like, well, she wants to break pre-sale records and like have everyone like her post and like stuff like that. Which I get, like if her primary audience is in the States, it would be, I don't know, a little bit weird to not really hear from the majority of your fans immediately after you announce something. But I just don't think this was the look. I just don't think it was the look at all. Another piece was that the trademarks for the Tortured Poets department went in that night at like 9:42 or whatever, which was like minutes after Taylor made that announcement. So it seemed like they had the paperwork like drafted, but it seemed like her legal team was just as kind of surprised as her that she had announced this, and they like immediately posted all of them for all of their merch ideas and stuff like that. So I thought that was interesting too. And then there was the Celine picture, of course. People were saying that she snubbed Celine. Like she defo did, but I don't think she has like malice in her heart. I don't think she thought Celine was like taking away from her moment or anything like that. I'm sure she's just as obsessed with Celine as we all are. But, I've like not accepted awards like this before or anything like that, obvi. But I have like, did public speaking or like whatever. When you're just, you have the crowd on you, you have the people listening, you have the time constraints, you have this overwhelm that you just won something. I could totally see how you would get flustered, especially if she didn't actually think she was going to announce it tonight. I could totally see how she got flustered. But there was like immediate backlash about how she treated Celine. I think people wanted to see her more respected, like Miley Cyrus was to Mariah Carey, which I super appreciate. There was, instant backlash on like Twitter and stuff like that. From out of nowhere, a picture backstage of her and Celine hugging got posted online. People were saying that Tree Payne was working extra hard that night. I also just think Celine, with her condition, with her like stiff person condition, I wouldn't want to like jump and bear hug that lady too. And I just think that Taylor, like, there's a lot to criticize about her. Trust me, we have talked extensively on this podcast about her private jet and her billionaire status and her white feminism and all of that stuff. And I think the one people can't discredit Taylor for is being a warm person and giving time to fans and collaborators and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't think she meant any harm. I think she made a oopsie daisy. Okay, let's talk about album of the year. Again, I don't think she thought she was going to get this because she announced the album on the first win, which it's like, obviously all eyes are on album of the year. So that's when you would want to nominate it. So I genuinely think that she was surprised. I know with her past surprise faces, people have thought they're fake. And trust me, I think that some of them were fake too. But I do actually think that they seem genuinely surprised, or I'm like a fucking sheeple. I don't know. Like, it's one or the two. It's one or the other. It's either I'm a sheeple or she was genuinely surprised. But she was getting flack again for pulling Lana up on stage. So Lana Del Rey never won Album of the Year. I don't think she's actually won a Grammy at all, but she's been nominated a bunch. She was on the record or the album. So I do understand why Taylor would want her up there, because they had Jack and her other collaborators up on stage. But I totally get that it's like, if you just lost a huge award and are sad, you probably don't want to be dragged up on stage. You probably want to have a pity party in your seat. And so, again, I don't think Taylor intentionally tried to hurt Lana's feelings. I think she wasn't thinking. I think she was trying to be kind and gracious because she was a collaborator on, 2 songs, like Snow on the Beach, but both versions. And I think she, wanted to show her appreciation. We got Lana at the Super Bowl, so they are all good. Okay, let's talk about the actual album. Hate the name. Let's start there. I hate the name. I think it's like way too long. I've basically can't pronounce it. I went shopping with Kirsten during the Super Bowl on Sunday, and we were talking about it, and it was the first time I had said it aloud, and I couldn't get it out. Even now I feel like I'm checking myself and really thinking, because it just doesn't roll off the tongue. I guess I could start calling it the TBD, the TTPD. I don't know. I'm just not into it. It's also so different from our album names, which I appreciate. It's kind of it was kind of giving lame-o when Ed Sheeran just kept on doing math signs. But I kind of liked that our albums were kind of a singular word or a small phrase, Midnight, Speak Now, Lover, etc., etc. You don't need me to list all 13 albums. I don't know. I just liked the ease of those. This just seems difficult. But we all know now that it is probably a reference to the Tortured Man Club group chat that is comprised of Paul Mescal, Andrew Scott, and Joe Alwyn. Very interesting. Very interesting. I think it's also really funny how the Joe hate is just in absolute hordes right now online. I saw a tweet today and I almost replied, but I was just it's not worth my time. But it was it's so nice seeing Taylor with Travis Kelce, a guy that's bigger and hotter than her, instead of a malnourished 1860s little dude or something like that. And I was babe, Joe Alwyn's tall. He isn't the hottest person alive. Neither is Travis Kelce, though, but he is a good looking guy. And do we need to rip apart his looks? I don't know at this point. I know that they broke up. It seems like they had a way more tumultuous relationship than we heard. I do think she made a lot of concessions for him, hiding their relationship so much. But at the time, I feel like she wanted to do that because she was having that oversaturation in the public eye and that kind of mini cancellation. She wanted to hide out and she wanted to be private for a bit. Maybe he let that go on for too long and maybe she didn't like that and maybe now she's bejeweled and all of that stuff. But I don't know. I'm just, do I like Joe? No. Did I ever like Joe? No. But am I calling him a 16th century starving prince or whatever? No, I'm also not doing that. I don't know, just fucking weird, but whatever. The internet is a weird place. Okay, let's go briefly go through the track list. So the first night is Fortnite with Post Malone. I'm really excited to see how Post Malone and Taylor's voices blend. It'll be very interesting. And then we have a song called The Tortured Poets Department. Then a song called My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys. Lots of I feel references to him being a boy. And then there's Down Bad, I'm assuming it's down bad horny, not down bad depressed, like I was just talking about. Then we have track 5. If you're not a Swiftie, you're probably not listening, but track 5 is her most personal, usually most sad song, and it's called So Long London. You know this is going to rip your heart like in 2 pieces, just because I feel like that feeling of when you're leaving a place and you know you're not going to come back, or if you do, it's going to be in a way different way than you normally do. I could totally just see her like looking out of the window of her private jet, the raindrops of London crashing on the window, and her like slowly wiping a single tear away, and So Long London popped into her head. There's But Daddy I Love Him, which allegedly is a reference to Ariel, the Little Mermaid. And this is interesting because Taylor's dressed up as Ariel for Halloween once. And it was also Lily Donaldson. It's also Lily Donaldson's favorite Disney princess. So, I don't know. We'll see. There's a song called Fresh Out the Slammer. Very excited to see what vibe that brings. But people are talking about how it may reference how in Are You Ready For It she says, you can be my jailer. Or just how she talked about how she was like locked up for 3 years and, you know, referencing the later half of their relationship. There's Florida with 3 exclamation points. And this is a song featuring Florence and the Machine. And Florida was the first Eras Tour concert she played after announcing the breakup with Joe. There's Guilty as Sin, ? Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, ? I Can Fix Him, No Really I Can, which I think is probably the one that I am most excited for. There's Love of My Life, or LOML, and I am embarrassed to say, not this time, but a few years ago, I literally had to look up what that meant. And then I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. Can't wait for this one too. And I think it's just like, you know, you have to check on, even if your heart is broken. The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. I'm hoping that this is about Maddie Healy, to be honest, and not about Joel, and not about Joe, but who knows? And then there's The Alchemy and Clara Bow. And Clara Bow is a silent movie actress who allegedly was overwhelmed by speculation about her personal life. There's lots of content about this on TikTok if you want to do a full dive into who Clara Bow is. But I will say there are pictures of her wearing a watch necklace, so maybe that was another Easter egg. So the aesthetic of the album is very Evermore and folklorian. This makes me so fucking happy, because I feel like everyone knows Evermore is my favorite Taylor Swift album. And while I love and appreciate all of her like more boppy, singing in the car, dancing with your girls tracks, I fucking love her really like indie, acoustic, more literary songs so much. I think that it just showcases, I don't know, her songwriting ability so much more than the other ones. And I'm just so fucking excited if that is the vibe. I think Jack Antonoff is doing most of the production. I'm like mixed bag about this. I love Jack's production. Obviously, he has produced like some of my favorite songs of all time, not just out of Taylor Swift songs, but like in the world. And I think that they collab together. He obviously knows all of her like, you know, darkest secrets or whatever. I think he brings out the best in her in that way. I just think that their production is getting a little redundant. I don't know if they just need to bring in a third. They need to bring in a third, or if they need to both try something new together or something like that. I just think that the vault tracks off of 1989 really sounded like Midnights. And I think that we could get more pop synthy, like Midnightsy kind of music. Apparently the album is listed as pop synth, but so was Evermore, so who knows about that. But I don't know, I just feel like we could get songs that are starting to sound a little bit the same. Again, I'll be obsessed with them, but I think it'd just be cool for something really fresh. I also want to say the Midnights aesthetic, like not the Eras tour aesthetic, but like the 70s, like anti-hero, orange felt couch, crochet top, stripes, burnt colors vibe was so different than the sound of Midnights and even like the album cover. So who knows if this will match perfectly too. It's kind of like how 1989 seems like a New York album, but then it's like seagulls and like beach themed. So I don't know. We'll see. The release date is April 19th. I hope you said that in tandem with me. And there are some few funny things about this date. It is, I don't know, the start or the end, or I don't know, the Revolutionary War. I don't know. I'm Canadian. Like that was, I guess, against the US and the British, which is, you know, like Taylor and Joe, like LOL. And then it's also the 1-year anniversary of the Unfollow Gate, which is when Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, and Taylor Swift went out for dinner in New York and they all unfollowed Joe at the same time. One last thing and then we'll move on from the tortured poets department. I want to say tortured artist or something like that. Like does not roll off my tongue really easily. Okay, people are alleging, because she's getting a little bit of pushback about her performance at the Grammys and like how she's taking over the NFL and all of this shit. And people are saying that she is conducting this so she gets mini canceled and she can do a rep style drop again. I think that is giving so much more credit to Taylor and Tree like that they ever need. Like I just don't think that that's true at all. And I think that a lot of celebs use like some outrage bait to stay in the media for this long. Like take a look at the Kardashians. They have done outrage baity stuff for years and they've had, you know, successful 15, 20-year careers at this point. Taylor's been, again, famous for 15 years or whatever. I think they know what they're doing. And I know it's fun to speculate about these things, but I think sometimes it is just not that serious. Also, again, like I said before, or it is that serious. And that's exactly what they're doing. Maybe I'm a sheeple. Okay. I think the last thing I would just want to say, there was like a meme or a TikTok or something that was going around about Diet Coke. And it's just like a girl drinking a Diet Coke. And it's like, Diet Coke is just so much better when you don't have some bitch in your ear saying that it's bad for you. And I really want to say that is exactly how I feel about Taylor Swift right now. Taylor Swift is so much fun to consume critically and like for joy and stuff like that. But man, is it getting annoying when you have people whispering in your ear how annoying she is and stuff like that. Like it takes some of the joy and the fun away. And again, that's not to say we like stick our heads in the sand and aren't critical of some of her behaviors and stuff like that. But when you just want to like enjoy a poppy tune, it is way better when there's not a whiny bitch in your ear telling you that it's bad for you. Okay, let's move on to two other pieces of news around Taylor Swift. First is Argylle. Man, oh man, do I have a fucking bone to pick about Argylle. And I think it is actually contributing negatively to this quote-unquote oversaturation problem that Taylor Swift is having. And it's not even her fault. But basically what happened is Argylle is a Apple TV Universal Pictures movie that was released in early Feb based on a book that was released January 9th, 2024. And you're probably thinking, oh, that's interesting that such a big production company chose to make this movie out of all the movies that could be made on a book that came out a month prior. And you would be right. That is fucking weird. So basically, the book is written by Ellie Conway, and it's about a spy. And that's as much as I'm going to say about that. And she had some suspicious profiles. All of a sudden, she had an Instagram and a Twitter that just kind of came out of nowhere. And people were like, this seems like an industry plant or like a fake person. And so, and the book, when it came out, it was talking about how it was going to be a trilogy or even a quad, and how the books aren't even published yet, but the movie has already been, picked up for a sequel and all of this stuff. Why is it on such a big budget with this unknown author, etc., etc.? And Ellie herself denied these claims. She posted on Instagram, "How do you fluster an introvert? Publish her first novel, have Matthew Vaughn buy the movie rights, then tell her she has to start using social media for visibility." So people were really doubling down that, yeah, this is a real person with a real author. A real person as a real author. And then people were like, okay, maybe it's actually Taylor Swift. Because the author has red hair, and it was very All Too Well, Taylor's version, 10-minute version from the vault, whatever, music video where she's an author and she has red hair. And Taylor has been talking about lately when she is maybe like done with her music career, moving into writing and directing. So we're like, could this be it? The author is also the main character in the movie. So just chew on that for a second. She wears a cardigan in it. Yep, that's how bad the Swifties were clowning at one point. And then this is the biggest hint, but the author / protagonist in the movie also owned a Scottish fold cat that she carried in a cat backpack like Taylor in Miss Americana, which I realized now when I was doing research for this episode, I've been saying Irish setter cats, which I think might be a dog or not a breed of any animal, but it's Scottish fold, and I swear to God I've been saying Irish setter. But anyways, she has a Scottish fold cat, and we all know that no one can own that cat except for Taylor Swift. So people are like, okay, maybe it's actually Taylor. And also, I wanted to say, I'm pretty sure she's British, possibly. And then we're like, oh, well, like Taylor was in London for like 5 years or whatever. But we find out later on that it's all a ruse. That author does not exist. The book and the movie was actually written by two authors, Terry Hayes and Tammy Cohen. And Matthew Vaughn, who bought the rights, asked Terry Hayes to write an accompanying book inspired by the movie that was in development called Argylle. So the book didn't even precede the movie. And then like the TLDR on this is that they like completely ripped off a bunch of things that Taylor, like that would indicate it was a Taylor Swift movie or Taylor Swift was involved, and she wasn't at all. And it like pisses me off that they would like so obviously just like make us think that she was involved so we would buy movie tickets. Like for some reason that seems so unfair to me, because the movie, what the TLDR is that the movie flopped. It made like 60 million at the box office when it cost like 200 million to make or whatever. Like probably one of the biggest flops of the year, like Cats level flop. And it just sucks that, I don't know, they would like so blatantly try to use her work for that. I guess what I'm saying is I'm just glad that Swifties didn't go and then buy all the tickets and then they're like, this was a huge success, we're just going to do this again. Like I'm happy that this flopped, so maybe people won't like rip her off in the future. Not that they even like really ripped her off. Like Bryce Dallas Howard, who was the main character, was talking about how maybe they were subconsciously inspired by Taylor Swift. And it's like, no, like the movie poster didn't even have a woman spy on it. It straight up just had a fucking cat. Like it was obviously ripped off and purposely misleading to your customers. Okay, let's move on to Jack Sweeney. So Jack Sweeney is a college student who has been tracking celebrity private jets and their flight patterns and how much fuel they use for years. If you are a patron of Ready to be Petty and you are in our Discord, you know that we have a channel dedicated to Taylor's jet. And we talk about where it's going when she's off to Kansas City and Nashville and Tokyo and LA and all of these things. It was really fun when we tracked her to London and then she showed up at the Beyonce Renaissance movie premiere. Celebs do a lot of tricky stuff to get out of this. They often change their like plane, like it's kind of like I this is probably the dumbest way of putting it, but it kind of reminds me of like a car's license plate, but they change that all the time so you can't track it like automatically using like bots and stuff like that. They've tried to change it like a million times. And I know also like all the flights aren't Taylor specifically. They are moving to places to get refueled, or it's being rented out by other people, which doesn't make it any less bad. But like we've been tracking this for, I would say like over a year. Like over 2 years, I guess, because I started my Patreon in September 2022. And I think we set up Taylor's Jet channel immediately. So we've been tracking this since September 2022. I go back and forth on the privacy concerns. I don't think it's necessarily a privacy concern because I don't think like us normal folk would be able to show up at a private jet like runway or whatever. But I don't actually know how that works. So maybe it is. If you know, please fill me in and I'll change my stance. But it's like we don't know where she goes once she lands in the city. We just know that she's there. And I guess like creepy people, like now that I'm talking it out with you guys, maybe creepy people would just like wait at the private jet place and then like follow her car or whatever. So I don't know. I guess maybe there is a security concern for sure, but I feel like the Barbara Streisand effect totally happened with this, where her legal team sent Jack Sweeney a cease and desist saying, stop doing this. And there was so many articles picked up about it, where I think before only us like fucking losers were tracking her jet. So tell me what you think about this. I'm really interested. I talk about this I don't know if I talked about this on the pod or on the Patreon, or maybe just with a friend in real life, but like, I know that our worship of celebrity has caused some of these, privacy concerns and safety concerns, which then lead to celebrities taking private jets. Like, I totally understand that, and I contribute to that. So, I don't know. I just think it's an interesting way to have a conversation about private jets and stuff like that. Then there was all this like propaganda, or like maybe that's too strong a word, but there was like all these tweets about how